Hey, Thursday morning coffee. This is about the longest I've had this mustache. We'll see how handlebar it can get. So, all right. Right now, I'm waiting for a Department of Energy live press release. And oddly, it hasn't come on. I haven't gone to look for the background to this, but I will. So here's the story. Just their headline is a DOE announces major research study with Exxon production or Exxon research. So, way cool. Hundreds of millions of dollars, I would bet. The most sophisticated labs, engineers, and capable scientists probably on the planet, done by a federal government for all of the states, I guess, or just the states that can understand what they're doing. So, research, it's paychecks for people. That's a good thing. But the fact is, in the 80s, I was in the facility and I watched them just for days out of years of their studies in groundwater flow, and mineral mapping. This is what they did in the 70s and the 80s for the USGS inside of Exxon. So the data is ours. The data mapped all those aquifers that are keeping us alive, that are feeding the Midwest crops, that are keeping parts of much of America in water, drinkable water, because it's usable water that you can use on crops because there's no pollution in it. But Exxon found pollution in those aquifers. Our pollution, man-made artifacts, have tunneled and gotten down into million-year-old water. This is something they learned. Exxon proved this with their research. They proved that the Hanford nuclear reservation leaked enough radioactive materials into the groundwater to contaminate an aquifer that heads east. This is the kind of research that these folks do and know about and understand. And yet we're arguing about some other things that are truly, civilizational issues that need to be discussed and worked out. So, on a good side, it kind of gives me a focus on something I can speak to. So, that is kind of a bear I want to poke because I know about it. I have some contact names from back in those days. Real people that existed. Whether they exist now or not, they're older than me, so. But the data exists, the artifacts exist. You can find the contracts from the USGS, from the Department of Energy, back into the 70s and before and after, where they use these research facilities. It used to be work like this would go through like Battelle, and then Battelle would subcontract that work out mostly to universities. That was the path in that endeavor for university research and spreading out the the knowledge. You can see it didn't go very far. This understanding of how we pollute water and how little we can afford to do about it, that's really the larger side of this. When you realize pollution has a life cycle and it will kill organic life cycles, when you realize that the quantities of these in the environment matter down to very, very low, very precise, very well understood measured levels. But then way up top, people are arguing about some of the science of how... okay. So I think the Department of Energy needs a come to Jesus moment on this research and sharing information. But we aren't going to get it. We aren't going to see half of what they do, and half of us wouldn't understand what they're doing or why they're doing it anyway. So divide and add it up, and it's tough to see a win in this one. So, Exxon Research and the Department of Energy. Now, it's odd that Rex Tillerson with Exxon spent almost all of his time as a diplomat over in Russia, working on Russian oil field deals. Now, I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying everything. We are helping Russia develop North Sea assets, extending all the way up into the Arctic. We're going to learn about that game 5 or 10 years from now. We're going to see, oh, hey, who, all right, I'm at my limit. I've lost y'all's attention. If you don't get it, try anyway.